Nevertheless, you spent about 10 years in Amazon and AWS, which is kind of like long time. And also you work on some of the cool and one of the biggest businesses in Amazon now. So maybe can you share some of your journey there? What key lessons you learned that may also be relevant for all of us here to learn about, especially working in cool products, innovative products that in the end becomes a successful products.
Yeah, absolutely. My time on Amazon really, especially early on, it taught me that there's a substantial difference between building software and then building software for production and then building software for scale. I think that's one of the key learning experiences that I got there. I mean, I remember I was working on building an ad exchange for the Amazon advertising business. Within a couple of months, we were basically serving over 100,000 transactions a second, which for the time, me being 3 years out of college or 3 years out of grad school was a great growth experience, and it was challenging, yet it was also a lot of fun. There are a lot of technical learnings, but I think I'll touch base a little bit more on some of the soft skills, which are the talent to be able to learn quickly and kind of find ways or hacks in terms of how to be able to do so. Keeping in mind that in this day and age, technology changes fairly quickly. As a technology leader or as a fairly seasoned technical person, you're kind of expected in a way to have a T-shaped competencies where you have a depth and you have an expertise in one particular area, but you have sufficient breadth of knowledge across that you can kind of add value at a high level. And to be able to pick up on that and to stay up is a pretty critical skill set of its own. To be able to hone that skill and to be able to use it consistently, I think is pretty important. The other lesson that I think, especially for technical folks that we kind of don't really think about so much, especially early on in our careers, is have the talent to kind of communicate your ideas and messages and be able to actually sell them and to drive that influence across the people that you work with to be able to drive consensus towards a common goal that's going to add value to the customers and add value to the business. Yeah, so I'd say those are maybe the top learnings that come to mind.
That's really cool. So I think you mentioned something very interesting in my view. So you have to differentiate between just building software versus building software production purpose where people can actually use it and it's usable. And the third one is building software for scale, which is like when you pick up tractions and many people are using that is also a different kind of problems. Which brings us to actually the next phase of your career at Bukalapak, right? You're actually working in this intersection between prod and scale where Bukalapak was growing really fast and becomes one of the potential unicorn startup back then. People might call this a scale up as a category of startup. So maybe tell us more in the beginning when you joined Bukalapak. What are some of the challenges of typical scale up that you actually have to overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. When I joined Bukalapak, the business was fairly sizable, but at the same time, it continued to grow fairly quickly. As you probably know, Henry, is that in e-commerce business, predominantly in Southeast Asia, there's a lot of promotions, a lot of events. During those events, the traffic can spike very quickly. I remember we had a feature where when people shake their phone, they'll get some credits. We were showing a TV show that was viewed by a massive amount of people. And then we would tell them, okay, go and shake your phone in 5, 4, 3, and then all of them will do it all at once. And you can kind of think of the magnitude of load that by itself would actually create. You see like a massive spike in our graphs that shows traffic. That was one of the early things that I had to work with the team on, is to make sure that we have a platform and we have infrastructure in place that can scale. When you're doing it at such a large scale, you have to bring in a lot of people together. You have to bring in the marketing folks so you really understand what the campaigns are going to look like, how the promotions are going to drive customer behavior and drive the nature of the traffic. The product engineering teams have to kind of work on improving or potentially make some changes in terms of either code optimizations or some architectural changes to make sure that the product continues to scale. And then at the infrastructure level, there's also a lot of readiness that kind of has to take place. And then establishing that as a process, bringing everybody together, make sure that people understand and they're kind of bought into that, and then drive a lot of the technical changes or the technical improvements that are required was something that was quite key. To grow a team from, I think at the time we were about a team of 300 on the tech side, and we grew the team to about 750 within about a year to a year and a half. So scaling the team in that magnitude and continue to be able to recruit people at a high caliber level is a challenge of its own, keeping in mind how competitive the talent market is at the moment. And I would say finally, there's a lot of challenges that come with a team that's growing very quickly. You want to find a balance between having small teams or providing small teams with a healthy degree of autonomy, but also at the same time, you don't want to have teams that would operate in silos. So kind of trying to find that balance and find ways to make sure that is not going to happen is key. To make sure that while we focus on growing the business, on scaling up the team, on maturing as an organization, that's not going to distract us from focusing on the individual and continuing to invest in people to make sure that our staff are engaged, excited, motivated, and continue to grow. When you're managing a smaller team, you have a bit more leeway and time to kind of dive into the weeds and maybe provide hands-on or direct technical contributions. But then as your team kind of grows substantially more than that, and you have a team of hundreds, there's going to be a lot more focus on establishing culture, processes, product strategy, technology strategy that will provide some sort of a guidance and a focus for the wider team. As a leader, you should always have that sense in terms of, depending on the situation of the team that you're currently managed, try to figure out and constantly gauge what does the team need from you the most such that the team can be the most successful, and kind of adapt to that is something that's quite important.